should you play on a game's hardest story mode on your first playthrough? So, just a bit of background. This question came on my mind pretty recently. I noticed that for a while, I didn't really enjoy playing a lot of games nearly as much as I did, and I was getting kind of worried because it's like, am I falling out of love with video games? As I've played video games my whole life, I absolutely love them. Like, am I just losing out of taste with it? And a lot of the games at the time I'd been playing, I noticed they all had one thing in common. I was playing them on their hardest difficulty possible, so I thought to myself, should I really be playing games on the hardest difficulties for every game to get the most enjoyment out of it? And the answer to that question is essentially no. I shouldn't really be playing games on the hardest difficulty out of the gate for a few reasons, and here's why. Let me give you a little bit more context as to why I came to that conclusion. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been playing, like I said, video games my whole life. I had a Nintendo 64 when I was younger. I played Super Mario and Mario on it. I loved the hell out of it. I had a PlayStation 2 where I played and fell in love with the Jack and Dexter series. Played it, loved it, had some of the fondest memories of my childhood in there. And then now that I'm a bit older, I currently have an Xbox and an Xbox One X to be particularly clear. And then I have made a ton of great memories with the Gears franchise. So that's been absolutely ton. So with that in mind, I approach every game with the thought that, okay, I've been playing video games most of my life. Video games come easy to me. I'm probably skilled enough by now to play on the highest difficulty for every game that I pretty much play. And essentially what I learned is that I'm dead wrong. I am wrong. I just because I'm good at games doesn't mean I'm going to be good at every single game. Let me give you some examples as to what I mean. So there are games that I have tried recently that were just straight up hard. Like they don't have a difficulty setting, they're just really freaking hard. One of those games I played was Hello Neighbor. For those of you who don't know what Hello Neighbor is, it's basically a game where you, for lack of a better term, have to aimlessly wander around in order to get the right combination of objects to keep progressing through the story and escape your neighbor who's really trying to kidnap you. And as the kid, you're kind of coping with this traumatic experience. But Hello Neighbor was just hard. There's really no how-to guide. They don't give you any instructions. They just put you in the world and they say, go. And oh my god, as Jeremy Johns would say, because I'm a fan of Jeremy Johns, it was so ball-numbingly difficult. I think within the first 10 minutes, I had to start Googling and watching walkthroughs of how to beat the game because I just had no idea. It was so hard. I was literally ready to walk away within the first 5 minutes, and I was so upset and disgruntled. I'm like, this sucks. But once I got and I mustered up the swallowed my pride and mustered up the strength to start looking it up, and I made it easier. So to me, lowering the difficulty in that game is just looking it up. I started to enjoy the game a lot more because I got to enjoy more of the cinematics and the stories of the game and absorb the story because for me personally, I crave the narrative and cinematic cutscenes that are within games. And it made the experience for me a lot better. For those of you who might not enjoy cinematic and narrative storytelling elements like I do, it might not always be the case. But for me, it added a lot more to experience just by making it a little less difficult to enjoy. But like I said, results may vary, especially for those of you who are a fan of gameplay. Hello Neighbor wasn't particularly a great game, but that's a whole nother story altogether. But there are also other games where my pride got in the way and I just wanted to play the hardest difficulty possible. And it was even with franchises I'm familiar with. Most recently, Gears Tactics. Gears Tactics came out 6, 7, 8 months ago. And I am a Gears veteran. I've played every single Gears, some of which I've even played on the Iron Man mode difficulty, which is insane. That's actually, it's beyond insane, but you guys get what I'm talking about. And I decided to play it on insane difficulty, Gears Tactics. I got through one mission. It took me forever to get through, but I got through it. I got through one mission. I got through one mission and a third, and then it got so hard. I'm like, I fuck it, I quit. And it got to the point where it was so hard. I actually forgot the game existed up until I came to make this video. I was scrolling through my games and apps on my Xbox app, and I saw Gears Tactics. I'm like, holy shit. I had such a miserable, hard time playing on insane difficulty that I forgot to go back and play the game. So I haven't tried it since, and that was 7, 8 months ago. And normally I am all over a Gears game, and I love Gears games. But I think because that my pride got in the way, and I set the difficulty as high as it could possibly go, it got in the way of that experience, and I didn't enjoy it nearly as much. And I walked away from it and forgot about it. So take that for what you will. I want to be clear here. I am not saying Gears Tactics is a bad game. I actually think it's quite a great game. I'm just comparing it and trying to correlate it with the difficulty level that I played at. So keep that in mind. I highly recommend trying out Gears Tactics if you haven't. If you want to look up reviews, go look up IGN or Metacritic, things of that nature. But anyways, it was at this point that I thought to myself, if I can play as much of a fun franchise as I enjoy with Gears, and I am not, maybe I should just try it changing the difficulty. This was like the second or third game that I had played on the hardest difficulty, and I hated my experience. Let me just try playing some of my next games on a normal difficulty, see if that's going to heighten my experience a little bit. And that started with Resident Evil 7. Now, when I played Resident Evil 7, one of the things Konami, I believe, makes you do by convention is play on normal difficulty first. They don't even allow you to play on hard difficulty at first at all, which to me, it compromises player choice a little bit, what sucks, but hey, I'm not going to argue Konami as a developer slash publisher. I'm trying to remember what their official title is. I know there's a difference between the two, but Konami knows their product best. The publisher and developers know their product best. I'm going to follow their recommendations. I'm just going to play on normal difficulty right away. And to my surprise, I played through Resident Evil 7 and I absolutely loved every single second of it. One, because it was a great game. And two, I allowed myself as the consumer and the gamer to play it at an appropriate difficulty that they recommended that wasn't so hard to the point where I never got to the cutscenes I craved or progressed through the story that I love to hear about so much. And I got to enjoy it so much more heavily, and it was absolutely great, and it created more lasting memories for myself. For me as a gamer, when you get to enjoy things more, it's obviously going to create more positive memories, and that's, if you're gaming, that's essentially what you're after having a ton of fun and having a great experience and sharing it with great people just like yourselves watching this video right now. So with that positive experience, I decided to continue it. I'm like, okay, let's try it again with the next game, and that brings me to The Evil Within. The Evil Within came out on Xbox Game Pass because Xbox just recently acquired Bethesda not too long ago. And so I thought, okay, The Evil Within, I'll play it on normal difficulty. And I believe this was another case where Bethesda makes you play it on normal difficulty the first time around, which, like I said, player choice is a whole nother thing, but Bethesda knows their product best. I will follow the recommendations. And it turns out the publisher developer was right again. Playing it on normal difficulty made the experience so much more fun, and it really made a memorable gameplay experience for me. And now I absolutely love playing games again. It's been absolutely great. And it's just with this small adjustment in playing on a lower difficulty with some games I might not be familiar with that made the difference. So I want to make sure I'm staying on point here. And one thing I want to call out with changing difficulties in games, one thing I learned in this experiment is, especially if you're new to a franchise, like for me, I was newer to the Evil Within and the Resident Evil franchises. I haven't played a ton of their games. I played the Evil Within 2, but that was like 4 years ago. But especially for those of you who are newer to a franchise, maybe play it on normal difficulty first to see what it's like. And if it's way too easy for you, you can always go ahead and bump it up later if they give you the choice. But by allowing yourself to get a lay of the land and learn the franchise a little bit more and playing on normal difficulty, you'll like it a lot more. At least I think you will, and that's the experience that I've had with it. And even with franchises I'm more familiar with, like the Gears franchise. Granted, the Gears Tactics, it's a totally different, I would say it's a different game than any of the other Gears games. Gears Tactics is more of a strategy style game. If I had to compare it to anything, it's more comparing like the Halo franchise and Halo Wars. Halo Wars is more of a strategy based game. Halo is more of a single player linear story. Same thing with Gears. Gears single player linear. Gears Tactics more of a strategy based game. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind as well. So maybe when you're crossing genres like that is, or maybe when you're crossing franchises, maybe consider playing on normal difficulty, and you might have a lot more of a fun experience, and you'll create more gaming memories for yourself, and you'll just have a great time. Because like I said, that's what we're pretty much all after. So overall, friends, I would say if your game experience has been stressful lately and it hasn't been a whole ton of fun and you're just kind of falling out of love with it, maybe just try progressing through the game on the second highest difficulty or the mid-tier difficulty, and you might enjoy the experience a lot more. I know I sure have, but what works for me might not work for you. So it's all about experimenting and trying new and different things. Like I said, this is just purely subjective. So if you guys have any other thoughts on that, feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know whatever your thoughts are. Have you ever tried new franchises on the hardest difficulty and you got through it? What was the experience like? Did you try it on too low of a difficulties to the point where it wasn't even enjoyable and you had to bump it up? What are the hardest games you've played through? Whatever you think, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts.